Okay, so the Acolyte trailer dropped not too long ago, and already there are a few people who are up in arms thinking that the show is going to break Star Wars continuity, and it has everything to do with this one scene. Now, if you're not familiar with why this might potentially be lore-breaking, it has everything to do with what Ki Adi Mundi said in The Phantom Menace, which is the idea that the Jedi haven't seen the Sith for a millennium.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
And so, given that the Acolyte takes place roughly 100 years before the events of The Phantom Menace, having the Jedi encounter a Sith would technically violate what Ki Adi Mundi said. Not to mention, Darth Maul was technically the first official Sith that the Jedi would become aware of, so that continuity has to be maintained as well. But if you ask me, calling the Acolyte lore-breaking on this basis is a little bit premature, and it definitely jumps to a lot of different conclusions. Now, some fans have pointed out the idea that this might not even be a Sith, but instead a dark side user or Acolyte who doesn't identify as a Sith, which would still technically be in line with what Ki Adi Mundi said in The Phantom Menace. Not to mention, there is precedent for this in the High Republic, which has featured a Jedi falling to the dark side by the name of Azlin Rel. Following Jedi Knight Rel's encounter with the Nameless or the Shi'Kar, which are essentially these force-eating monsters which were weaponized against the Jedi during the High Republic era, Rel effectively went mad, causing him to essentially abandon the Jedi Order and embrace the dark side in order to study the Shi'Kar, which effectively allowed him to live well over a century, although succumbing to madness. And we have seen Dark Jedi or Dark Side users wielding red lightsabers without being considered a Sith. Asajj Ventress, for example, would not have been considered a Sith as the Sith operated under the rule of two. It just wouldn't have been possible since Dooku and Palpatine were still around. Not to mention, she was never officiated with a title anyways, which kinda makes her a bit more of an acolyte or assassin of sorts. And this could very well be the same thing that the Acolyte show is playing with, as a wielder of a red lightsaber doesn't have to be a Sith. If this is indeed the case, then it would certainly not ruin any continuity issue. For all we know, the character here might just be May, who we've seen throughout the trailer fighting against the Jedi. But while this might be the case, I actually don't think that this person is a Dark Jedi. I genuinely think that this is indeed a Sith. And the first reason is simply that whoever this is simply way too powerful to just be another Dark Jedi. Keep in mind that this one individual essentially force-pushed an entire group of Jedi, including Knights and Masters, so it's pretty clear that whoever this is way stronger than any mere Dark Jedi. Which is also why I don't think this Dark Side user is May, as we have seen May fight against the other Jedi before, and for the most part, Master Soul and Indara hold her off pretty well. So this villain in question will have to be leagues above May, possibly being this character that we see in the distance. Not to mention, the show is about the rise of the Sith. We already know that this is the intention of the show, so it would be a little pointless to have a big bad reveal to simply be another Dark Jedi instead of a more serious threat like the Sith. On top of this, the reaction from the Jedi in the trailer kinda says it all.
What is that?
Now, if we assume that this is indeed a Sith, then will it break continuity? Well, the short answer is it really depends on how the show handles the encounter. The show could very well pull a Rogue One with all the characters dying by the end of the story, essentially wrapping up the storyline without having to deal with any continuity issues from the characters, knowing way too much. And there are signs from the trailer that this is indeed the case. For one, the vast majority of the scenes with the potential Sith Lord appears to all take place on this one forest planet, the same forest planet that we see multiple times throughout the entire trailer. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice that in the final shot, a few Jedi are actually missing, such as Kal Naka, the Wookiee Jedi, Master Indara, and so on. And what this might suggest is that the group of Jedi, while investigating the murders, end up getting stranded on the planet by the Sith and end up getting picked off one by one, effectively introducing the idea that the Sith are back without allowing the Jedi Council to find out and maintain the continuity. And I think ending the season in this way would be very satisfying. After all, the entire show is supposed to follow the story of the Sith, something which the showrunners have repeated time and time again. That being said, characters who do live to tell the tale don't necessarily break continuity as well. It's entirely possible for characters to survive the encounter with the Sith, to be so terrified to the point where they just decide to run away and hope to be forgotten. this would still allow the continuity to be preserved. Or if the character in question were to be locked away or stranded on a remote planet for some reason, all of these are real possibilities that the show could use to keep its characters alive after a Sith encounter without disturbing the main storyline. So it isn't always the case that everyone has to die in order for the prequel to make sense, as some fans have suggested. Now, that being said, personally, I would still prefer that at least the majority of the characters die, as that would make the stakes way higher and really add more weight to the threat of the Sith leading up to the events of the Phantom Menace. Another thing to note is that regardless of whether everyone dies or not, the Acolyte was initially pitched as a multi-season show. The intention was not really for the entire story to end within one season, and so even if there are Jedi who live to tell the tale, continuity might not be an issue as the story is just simply incomplete. So this does give the show plenty of opportunities to explore Jedi-Sith interaction without disturbing the main continuity. All I'm really saying is, let's not jump on this bandwagon of premature conclusions about how the show is going to break the lore when we really only have about 2 minutes worth of footage. So let's keep it positive, hopeful, and just enjoy the ride and wait until it finally comes out. I mean, I really do think that there is a lot of storytelling potential here. The show could potentially give us the likes of Darth Plagueis and his master Darth Tenebrous, so I think it would be good to just go in with an open mind. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.